Wow, what a difference a quarter makes from the real estate market. When we were looking at the end of last year, there were so many predictions: when housing prices fall, would rates fall, what was going to be, once we got into the selling season, what was that going to be like? And man, everyone is wrong in so many different ways, myself included. So we're going to take a look at the market, what's likely to happen throughout this year, and if you're a buyer or seller, what you'd probably be wanting to look at as we go throughout 2024. Hey everyone, this is Rayce Robinson, your favorite Florida mortgage broker, and let's look at the numbers for April, which really cover to the end of March. And looking at the numbers here, so I like to start with inventory. Obviously, that's the amount of homes for sale currently here in our market. If you look at March of last year, there were 5,052 homes on the market. Right now, there's almost 9,000. That's actually a double. That's significant. That means inventory is up almost 80% from where it was at last year. And you would expect higher supply would really soften prices. And we're going to look at that because it really didn't. And why was that? Because we were already so undersupplied. Now, when we look from February to March, we did go up another 4.4%. So you did see an increase from February to March, which makes sense because we're getting into the selling season. You're going to see more activity on the buy side. At the same time, you're going to probably see more listings come on the market. So what did price do though? Even though supply went up 80%, median price went from 365 to 386.5. So we went up 5.9%, which is in line with what I think appreciation is likely to do throughout this year, 3 to 4%, meaning there's probably going to be no reduction in prices. Some areas of the country did see a softening of the market. We really did kind of everywhere. But here in Central Florida, almost no reduction in prices. In fact, it's still very, very competitive in a lot of areas. And then if we look from last month, we still went up 2.5% just from February to March. Days on market, been running right around this 60 days or so on the market. And months of supply from 3.51 to 1.72, showing you how low inventory got. And we did see a drop this month from 3.95 to 3.5 months of supply. And months of supply just means that how many months would it take if you took all the inventory and current sales to run through all the inventory. A kind of a rule of thumb is 6 months is a balanced market. I'd say that's a loose rule of thumb because it really depends on the trend, and we are trending towards a more balanced market. And if you're a buyer, that's good news. But if you're a seller, again, a balanced market is just what it sounds like. It means you're not really taking any big price reductions. It may take a little longer to sell the house. And like I'm in Oviedo, certain areas are still just as hot. And I'd say in that $300,000 to $500,000 price range, the market's still very active and likely to get more so as we go through the summer. But the big star of the show has been rates, because I thought there were going to be, the market was pricing in 4, 5, 6 rate cuts throughout 2024. Now there's some people saying there won't be any. The market right now pricing in 1 to 2. Jerome Powell said recently, data indicates that it's likely to take longer than expected to win the war against inflation, which means that when you look at CPI and PPI and all these things that they're measuring inflation, the trend is up. As long as that trend is up, the Fed is not going to cut rates unless they get forced to. A big drop in the economy, GDP going down, as far as unemployment really increasing, and none of those things are happening, meaning the market is believing that the Fed is likely to keep rates higher for longer. And when we look at interest rates themselves, this is Mortgage News Daily. I like to look at this because I'm using the same thing every month. Everyone's rate's different, everyone's credit's different. I like to look more at the trend. So the cycle high was really back here in October of last year. We hit 8% for just a brief little time. And then we fell all the way down into the mid 6s and now all the way back up into the mid 7s, meaning that the market is believing the Fed that we're likely to be higher for longer. And that means that rates are probably not going to come down meaningfully throughout the summer. And when we get into all the numbers here, one of the things I do like to look at is foreclosures. We had 23 distressed homes last month, or 25 last month, 23 this month, meaning foreclosures are not really happening. Major depreciation is not really happening. So the health of the market is still really strong. And then we kind of just compare all the numbers here. This 8,971 homes is broken down by 6,189 single-family homes, 1,809 condos, 973 townhomes. We do see new listings going up from about 3,800 to 4,100. Sales closed going up 2,100 to 2,500, and then days on market. staying right around that 60 days a month. So how would I interpret all this information going throughout 2024? I do believe that rates will be higher for longer, so I don't think we're going to get a lot of relief on lower payments throughout the summer. That will be counteracted by a very active summer of buyer incentives coming out, first-time home buyer programs to help with down payment and those kinds of things, and nobody predicting for the long-term rates to be higher. Just when will the Fed cut? Right now, the market thinking maybe September, October, maybe more towards the end of the year, and then getting more rate cuts throughout 2025. And what would I do if I was a home seller? Well, that's simple. There's really no reason to wait to sell. So if you needed to sell, you wouldn't be waiting for higher prices at this point. The market is still in your favor. As it gets more towards balance, then you're going to have to be more flexible with buyers. So it's a great time to sell if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, it's a little trickier because payments are higher. So that does make it harder to qualify when rates are higher. The number one reason I say to buy a home, this is a chart that I show in a lot of first-time home buyer seminars that I do. And if you take 3% appreciation, which we've had more than that, even with rates a lot higher, if you had a $400,000 mortgage, in year 5, you would have almost $90,000 equity, and in 8 years, you have about $150,000. The only reason to really buy a home is to take your rent money and build wealth. Do not try to time the real estate market. I promise you it never works. When you qualify and you feel like you're ready, that's when you want to buy. Over the long term, it always pays off. And when there's incentives out there to help you buy and the market's a little softer, I mean, you can get seller to help with closing costs and those kinds of things. It really right now is a great time for the buyers that can't afford to buy, because when rates fall, that will push more people in the market. Every time rates fall, mortgage applications go way up. That's when you want to be refinancing, and that's when it's going to be harder to get good terms from sellers and those kinds of things. So I think it is a little bit of a balanced market right now. I think as a buyer, though, this is going to be the golden time. I think this summer with all the first-time home buyer seminars like Hometown People, those are things you want to take advantage of. If you don't know what Hometown People is, pays for most of your down payment and closing costs. If you're a Florida resident or a first-time home buyer, reach out to me. I'd love to help. This is Rayce Robinson, your favorite Florida mortgage broker. Like, subscribe to my channel if you want all the best data here in our Central Florida market. And as more information becomes available that moves the market, as always, I'll cover it right here. Have a great day, great week, great month, and I'll talk to you soon.